Yo, what is going on today, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today's video, we are doing a tier list, and this is after the 9.5 revert. So a lot of health down on most characters, a lot of protections down on most characters. And I've played a lot of Smite games over the past 4 days. I've played a lot. So I kind of got a good feeling of what's going on, what gods are feeling good, what gods are feeling not so good. So we're just going to tier list them on this. Ban, first pick, solid, niche, bad, and troll. This is basically a god that I look to ban because it's so good. This is a god that I will look to first pick so I don't get counterpicked really. It's a solid pick. Fine if it's available. Niche, it's like a nice counter pick. Don't really want to pick it early. Bad, it's just not good right now. And then troll. And before we even jump right in, this character got even worse. Starting with Achilles. I think Achilles is in a fine spot. I do think he is a worse off god than he was last patch, but do I think it makes him that much worse? No. I think he's solid. Decent laner, decent late game. Yeah. I've seen a boatload of Agni, and most of it is Stallone, but it's still a character that I think is just in a pretty solid spot. I think if other mages weren't so much better, I think that he could be first pick, but I'm going to just stick him in solid for now. Upwash. After the 9.5 revert, I think he is so bad. He is just a bad character. He dies. Yes, his damage is good, but the percent heal that he gets from his passive is worse. The cooldowns are less important because he's just easier to like kind of burst. And then if you compare him to other immobile mages, his damage is just not good. Amaterasu. I think she's pretty niche right now. Don't think I've actually seen a single Amaterasu in any of my games yet. But I think she's just meh. If you have like a weak laner that you're playing against, you can kind of just farm it up a little bit. Or if you have somebody that you don't really expect to know what they're doing, Amma can still exploit that. And I think she is fine in some matchups. I think she's mostly just like a counter pick. AMC does not feel that good. I'm going to put AMC in niche also. Kind of the same thing as Opwash. They were both pretty immobile, like kind of healing oriented. Him through HP 5 and Opwash through his bodies. Like his wave clear isn't as important because the waves are a lot squishier. A lot of nerfs have come his way. A lot of nerfs have come Bluestone's way. He's at a spot where I think he's just meh at this point. On her, I think On her is a first pick hunter currently. I think his damage is insane. He can snowball laning phase very easily. If he gets a lead, he'll just one-shot you. His ult is like even into the mid game, it's like a half health machine. And in the early game, you can almost 100-0 with how much damage it does. On her is crazy good. Anubis, kind of the same thing as Upwash, an immobile mage. He does have better one-shot potential. He also has CC, which helps him out a lot, but I don't think it helps him a ton. He's pretty niche. Aokwang. Aokwang is so good now. You walk over to solo lanes and you ult them and execute them. He was like one of the few gods that can actually gank solo last patch. And now it's even easier to gank solo. Also, a lot of supports and solos don't like building beads, even though after 9.5, supports tried to get away from it. But before 9.5, a lot of supports were going beads. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Aokwang just feasts in most games. Aphrodite, I don't think she's very good now. She is another god like Opwash who, like, healers really got a lot of benefit from having the extra health, extra protections because they were like really good in fights over time. You can just get bursted now. So I think she's a lot worse off. Apollo actually felt pretty good. I played an Apollo game. His damage felt good. His laning phase feels fine. I don't think there's anything spectacular about him, and I definitely think there's hunters better than him. But I think he's a solid pick. Arachne. A lot of people were expecting Arachne to be really good after the patch. I did not really expect it. I think she's worse off after 9.5 gets removed, and she was better off when 9.5 was in the game because her percent health damage was more valuable at that point. She couldn't be bursted. Her healing was better. I think she's okay. In my rank, I think she's bad. I think in most ranks, though, she's pretty niche. Ares is the best support in the game. For one reason, it's because one of the gods that I also think is very, very good. Ares is actually good into. So Ares is phenomenal, very good laner, very good mid game, very good late game, can kill at almost all points in the game. I think Ares is a first pick god. Artemis, bad. Really just no reason to pick her. Weak laner, not great late game, can get bursted, can get one shot. I'm not a fan of Artemis right now. Artio, after her buff and after the 9.5 revert, I think is better off because she can actually kill. After 9.5, she had very little damage threat. I think she's kind of back a little bit. I'm going to say she's solid. Athena, always going to be at least an okay character. I'm going to put her in solid. I'm not as high on her as a lot of other people. I think most people play her like badly because you have to like dash taunt off cooldown, which a lot of people don't do. But that's kind of how you play her, and yeah, I don't really see it a ton. Atlas, I think Atlas is another solid pick. And low-key, I think Atlas mid is phenomenal right now. His damage was good even in last patch before the 9.5 revert. And now his damage is going to be even better. He's just going to have a slightly harder time laning because his protections and health are down. And it will get poked out a little bit more. but I don't think it matters with how much damage he does late game. It's so much. I think Willix's first pick right now. When she can one-shot early game, she is going to be good because I think it was really hard to get off to really early leads last patch because her damage was just, it just felt a tiny bit too low. But now a blink knock-up early game with maybe a couple autos here into a nice 2, it guarantees death for almost anyone you're hitting. So I'm a fan of her. Baba, I think Baba sucks. Baba almost goes into the troll pick area because this is another god that was really good because of the extra protections and extra health. The cloak mitigation also helps. The house was also a really big thing because you get a shield from that. She feels like you can actually kill her in her house now. I think Bacchus is a very good support. I don't think he's insane. His damage is almost good enough to one-shot. And if he gets off to a lead, it's very hard to deal with him. Bakasura, I'm going to say niche. Because after they reverted camps, Bacchus farming is insane. And you kind of just play to just farm like a demon and then just drop ults and then go back to farming. And if you can kind of play like that, I think he's actually really good. Just don't get caught up in a bunch of fights with Baka, and I think you'll be fine. Baron, another niche character. I think he's a really bad mid laner, but I think he's an okay solo support. He has damage threat now. He's just a lot easier to deal with because he's not as tanky, but I have nothing great to say about him and nothing horrible to say. Bastet, I hate this character. I really think Bastet is one of the best characters in the game. Her damage feels almost untradeable because she has so much safety in the form of a 3 that body blocks you, a 1 that lets her reposition 2 times, her ult that gives her a CC immunity, and if she hits it, you can't trade into her. And then on top of that, she also has sustain. Her old weakness kind of used to be no CC immunity, but now she even has that after her rework like a while back. I just mean like early season, Bastet had no CC immunity, and now that she has that, she just feels like she has very few weaknesses. Bellona does not feel very good. She's very good in laning phase, and she has solid damage, but playing a Bellona diving in the late game, it just feels like a task that's impossible. I think auto attack warriors probably get hurt the most from this change because ability warriors can actually do damage to kill. And while auto attack warriors can do damage to kill, it's very hard to sit there and auto a bunch of times while also tanking the damage from the enemy. Kabrakin's niche. His damage still doesn't feel that good, which is crazy, at least in support. He's like a 50-50 laner. If you have a really good ADC with you, he can, dictate lanes and win them. But for the most part, I think he's just meh. Kama, I think Kama's back. I think Kama's a very good character. Being able to do a lot more damage in the ultimate where they can't trade onto you and then also having sustain does make him very hard to trade into. Same thing as Bastet, where sustain does a ton of damage. The difference is that he has skill shots and he doesn't have CC. Bastet has no skill shots for the most part and CC. Serb feels great. Serb feels so good. Solo support. He feels like he can actually kill again. Feels like his damage is useful. His build right now is very good. I'm a fan of Serb. Cern. I am not a big fan of Cern, but I don't think he's horrible. I think he's pretty niche. His damage, again, is not great. He's also a lot easier to kill because he is a no CC immunity hunter with very little burst. Kind of like the same thing as Artemis. It just doesn't ever feel scary fighting into a Cern like it does like an On-Her who has CC and damage and can win laning phase. Or an Apollo even, who has, I think, even damage with Cern, but a lot more safety. Shock feels worse, but I don't think it's that much worse. I'm going to put him in solid. I think he was a really good pick beforehand. Good laner, good mid game, good late game, just good. Chang'e, ban. You've probably heard somebody complain about this character. It's just, she is so broken, it's crazy. So OP. Charon. I think this god sucks. They have gutted this character, so he is just useless. He's supposed to be like a scuffler. Decent damage, decent CC, doesn't really put himself out of position. Now it's decent damage. The shield is a little bit better because if you're shielding 100 on 1,000 health versus 100 on 800 health, that 100 is going to be worth a little bit more. But it's just, his damage feels super low. It feels like he's easier to kill. It feels like his team's easier to kill, so he's not getting multiple rotations of abilities. I'm just not a fan. I'm going to put Charybdis into ban tier. I don't ban her because I don't have an issue playing against her, but I recognize her as a very hard to 1v1 character. There's other characters I would ban over her. That's how I'd put it. She is still very good. She's probably the best hunter in the game. Very hard to trade into, very hard to fight, good damage. She still has just a very lackluster, at best, ult, but her 1-2-3 passive is insanely strong. Chernobog, I hate this character. Say niche. Bad laner, bad mid game, good late game, but is it worth it? Meh. Chiron is busted. He is busted. I really think if the game was played more at a competitive level, you'd see a lot more Chiron, which would mean more Chiron in ranked. He just doesn't see a ton of play in ranked. Tuba played him for one game and was doing so much damage. He's still not the hardest god to dive, but if you are diving the enemy team and Chiron is on your team, It just feels so easy. Maybe a controversial take. I think Kronos is better off now than he was beforehand. It feels like your damage is high enough to kill at the mid game instead of being so low at all points in the game. Well, yes, you can maybe get your ult off. You're just never a threat. Nobody's ever scared of a Kronos except scared of taking my Phoenix. But nobody's actually scared of dying to a Kronos. But now you actually have to be a little bit worried if you don't have beads. Like a 3 auto 1 or 3 auto 1 auto might be enough to kill you at some points. I'll put him in niche because I still don't think he's that great, but niche is good. Cleo, I think she had nothing really change from this patch and last patch. Her build doesn't really change. How you play her doesn't really change. Does she get better or worse? Not really. I think she's still a pretty solid pick. Nothing to write home about. Nothing to be pissed about having her. Cthulhu. Cthulhu's kind of like Serb, where he is a little bit easier to kill now, but his damage just feels so much better. I don't think he's necessarily a first pick, but I think he's a solid pick. Speaking of first picks, Kukulkan, great laner, clears waves easily. When it goes to late game, this is one of the few warriors that can actually one-shot if he times everything correctly. Like a blink ult into like a 1-3 and then a transform, ult 3-1. That is just so much damage. Backliners can't live it. And he's even good laning phase, so I think Kukulkan's great. Cupid, bad. Shouldn't have to explain it. Dodgy, another ban. Yeah, she just one-shots. And she's super safe. Fuck Dodgy. Danzaburil. I actually think Dance feels really good right now. He's got really good base damage. I'm going to put him like bottom side of first pick. He's got really good base damage, so he actually can one-shot off of an ult. And he's a somewhat safe god. I think the mitigations in his 3 helps him a lot. Do I think he's best hunter in the game? I mean, no. I would take probably all 3 of these hunters over him. But I still think he's in that first pick tier, just as a lower end one. Disco. I've never been a Disco fan. I'm going to put her in niche. I might be biased and underrating her. She might be solid, but I think there's so many better mages. It's crazy. Erlang's slightly different now. He's back to a point where he can almost one-shot you, but he's kind of easier to deal with because he doesn't have the CC that he used to, and he doesn't have the survivability that he used to. I'm going to put him in solid. He just kind of flips from being a warrior jungle to now he's almost like an assassin. I'll put him in solid. ESET, if this 9.5 patch didn't come through, I'd put ESET in the ban tier. After this patch, though, I think she's still solid. It's just easier to deal with her because she's not nearly as utility-wise hard to deal with, and also survivability-wise hard to deal with. So I'll put her in solid. Fafnir, solid. Nothing negative, nothing positive. His dragon form is even better now because you kind of have like mobility. They switched him up a little bit to be easier to use his 3 and stuff, and you can like move around when you're in that dragon form, and you can actually like jump in and move right away. The issue is you just kind of feel easy to kill. Like he doesn't have that Fafnir run around unkillableness that he used to, but his damage is better. So I think he's still in solid tier. Fenrir, I think Fenrir is even worse now than he was beforehand. I thought he would get better, but most of the time it feels like you can't even get a brutalize off before you're dead. You build Blackthorn, and yes, your damage is good, but you feel like you fall off a little bit in the mid game. I think he's really bad. People could probably argue he's a little bit better, but I'm gonna just say niche. Freya sucks. She does do a lot of damage, and her ult is still very annoying, but she doesn't feel like she has the damage to kill frontliners. She doesn't feel like she's as survivable, so her lifesteal doesn't matter as much. I'm gonna say niche. Ganesh. I think Ganesh actually got hurt pretty hard with this patch. Backline supports are harder to play because you can actually kill them, and Ganesh is one of those few gods that is not very safe. The only reason he was safe in last patch was because he just had so much health and so much protections. Niche for him. Geb. If we're talking about playing Geb in non-support, I think he's actually better. I think Geb as a support is so bad in laning phase, you're just losing lane. I think he's not great until like level 13, when he can have second relic and then another point into his ult. But even then, everything about Geb just does not make me like him. I'm going to put him in niche. Gilgamesh, same problem as Bellona, except it's actually even worse because he has no CC immunity. I think Gilgamesh is horrible. Guan Yu, hurt by this patch also. A lot of damage over time. It feels like you can burst him through most of his damage. And I think his build right now is not very good, so Guan and niche. Hachiman after his nerfs, still solid. There's nothing to write home about. Hades. This character's good. I'll say solid, but I could see him actually moving up into this first pick. I think his build right now is broken. Like Bancroft's Typhon's Poly is so much damage to kill. He could build into Sigil now if he wants to, if there is a reason for him to. He has all these different starters to use. Tainted if he wants the anti-heal. Sigil for a little bit more survivability. Sans for that second life. Gemma Focus for the movement speed. He has so many different ways to play with just the starter change. That keeps up a lot of stuff. Hebo is very good. Being able to kill is a good thing, and Hebo can finally do that. Hebo is killable, yes, but I think it doesn't really matter. He is so good. Heim, another character that I think is very good right now. His ultimate does damage. It doesn't feel like it does 100 damage. It does threatening damage. He's also pretty safe, not as safe as he was obviously before the patch, but I'm still a fan of Heim. Hell, low key, Hell is horrible. Hurt harder than Afro is. She doesn't have the ultimate that Afro has. I think she is so bad now. Hera's fine. She's okay. I really have nothing to say about Hera. She's fine. Hercules, I think Hercules is solid. Same positives as Kakolin, except late game, he doesn't have that one-shot potential that Kakolin has. But he pulls relics really easily. He's still got a lot of survivability. His damage is still crazy good. I think he's solid. Horus, same thing as Herc. Can pull relics. If he gets ahead, he's very hard to deal with. Issue is late game. He is a strange character to play, but he does still do a lot of damage even if it goes late. And a surprising, very strong hunter is Hu Yi. His ricochet can clear waves now, which is a positive. He can actually 1v1 early. And then I think the biggest thing is that ability to just get into the air very quickly to reposition to then just one-shot someone is just so strong right now. Having that quick ability to get you out is going to feel really good on this patch. Unbot, solid, as he usually is. Ishtar, solid, as she kind of usually is. Very good landing phase. Harder to play late game because her 3 is pretty easy to block, but nothing that you don't want to play her for it. Before this patch, Ixchel was a ban. Now I think she's just first pick. A whole lot of damage. It's just you can kill her because she's not as tanky now. But she was one of my least favorite characters last patch. I hate that they give her healing when she's hitting an enemy in her ultimate. It was so, in my opinion, respectfully, dumb to do. Izanami, she's even worse. She is actually even worse than she was last patch. I'm putting her in troll. I don't care. Clear is less important now because you can actually kind of one-shot waves as most characters. And she's also squishier. So her no CC immunity, her slow dash, and then just her weak lifesteal unless she's using her 1. She is so easy to deal with. Janice, another ban in my opinion. This is on the condition, actually, I'm going to do first pick because she is a ban if the condition is the other team has a Janice player that is known or is good. Like playing against SPL level, SEC level Janices, even just high ranked level Janices right now is so difficult because of just how much damage he does. He's back to having one-shot potential, and then his 2's damage is insane. Jingwei, not a fan. I'll say niche. Weak laner. Yeah, she still has that one-shot build, but you're getting to late game, like late game for that. I think most of these hunters just have better payoffs. Jormungandr, he is bad. He is bad. Same thing as Bake, except slightly higher damage and survivability, but that's just slightly. Kali, I think Kali's back to solid. I think she actually had a harder or a better time in last patch before they actually nerfed her, where it was very hard to burst her before she could get her ult off. And then they nerfed her. And then she was really bad. I think she's kind of back up to solid just because she can actually kill the enemies now. Her best item is not in a great spot though, which is kin size, but I still don't think that hurts her too much. I think she's solid. Khepri, same tier as Ganesh and Geb, except he's probably the easiest of all 3 of them to kill. So it's harder to play him, but he's also the best peeler out of all of them. Arthur, played him 1 game, felt solid. Nothing horrible, nothing great. No big complaints with him. Cuckoo niche. Very good farmer. Has literal one-shot potential into the late game. He just feels weird, I guess, to play. His 1 does do a lot of damage, and he's a good poly user, but I'm not thinking he's that great. Kumba, you guys might think I'm crazy. Kumba's back to solid. He can actually threaten with damage with his abilities now. That's for 1. And for 2, having more CC is better because there's more damage in the game. I think Kumba's in a solid spot. Better than Kuzenbo, though? No, Kuzenbo's still very good. His damage is even better now. And so that means I don't even think you have to build like a damage item on this character. Maybe if you wanted to, you could build a Deso, but you just build full tank and you're nearly unkillable. And you can also just dominate everyone. Lancelot, another ban. Stupid character. Next up, Loki. I do think he's actually a lot better off now. First pick. I'm going to say pretty easily first pick. He's almost at the ban area. I just think all these assassins are better. Maman, same thing as Loki. Almost in that ban area. Her damage is very high. Yes, she's easier to kill, but it's better for her to have that threat onto you because she was already pretty easy to kill, but now her damage is actually really good. Marty, just short of Chiron in terms of how valuable I think they are because they're both Bluestone ability hunters. I think Chiron's ability to dive the enemy backline is better than Marty's ability to kind of banish himself off the ground. Maui, I think Maui is very good. Do I think he's Ares good? No, but his 1's base damage is insane. He has good CC. Actually, he has great CC. And actually hitting an ultimate feels like you're threatening the enemy with your damage, which is awesome. And now Medusa. If you've not played against this character, count your blessings because she is busted. Mercury. I think Mercury's good. I've got a feeling people aren't going to be playing him, but I would not be surprised if they did buff him and then it becomes insane, Or if they don't even buff him and he still becomes insane. I'll put him in solid for now because this is more of a theory than like there's actual games to back it up. But I think Mercury is very, very good. Merlin. I think Merlin's back to being one of the best mages in the game. Having CC on your peel, having damage that you can out DPS someone, having range with your ice. He is better off now than he was before the patch because he can also kill the gods diving him. Morgan, almost the exact same as Merlin, just with CC immunity and a little bit more chase potential with less cooldowns. Mulan, I think this character is overrated. Her damage is good. Her damage is really good, but she just seems so easy. It's so easy kiting her out and then just killing her. It's so easy. Neith sucks. Back to being terrible. Play her in mid lane if you want to not troll your team, but if you're playing her in ADC, you are trolling your team. Nemesis. Solid. No issues with her. She kills a little bit easier. She is killed a little bit easier. She's one of those gods where she's almost like a warrior with how she plays because she wants to just kind of fight you and then fight you and fight you and fight you, and either you die or she dies. It's just now she does a little bit more damage and she's less tanky. Naja, I think Naja's good. Not great, just good. Pulls relics. His lower base damage is kind of better for like support and solo Naja, but I still think he's good. I Nike is ass now. I think she's very bad. Super slow abilities. Very easy to kill her. Sunder becomes even better because you can literally just one-shot her. I think she's bad. Nox, if there was competitive, this is another character that I think would be busted. She's kind of like Afro and Hell and Baron as like a mage support, but she's like the offensive side of the coin where she hits one root combo, you should be dead. She's also very hard to kill because of the ult giving damage reduction or making the enemy do reduce damage. And she's also able to just become immune to everything by dashing into a teammate. I think she's very good. Nut is solid. I think Nut actually got hurt with the patch. I think her damage was like, her damage is still really good, but it just seems way easier to burst her now before she either goes into the air or as she dashes away. Nuwa, she's even better in my opinion. I think she could be a first pick. I think she's just a little too unsafe, but her ult's damage is, she used to do about 1,000 damage late game with a good build. She's still doing about 1,000 damage late game, but 1,000 damage on somebody that has 2,300 health versus 2,000 health is pretty night and day. And it's also doing increased damage if you have like a Rada Tahuti or if you're playing around your procs really well. She is a very, very good character right now. Odin. I think Odin is one of the better warriors currently. His damage was too low last patch, but he was a lot harder to deal with. Now his damage is like, it's really good damage, and he's still pretty hard to kill, and he's got CC, and he's got a wall, and he's got a shield that you have to get through. Very few negatives with Odin in my opinion. Olerin, worse than last patch. His clear doesn't really matter as much. It's kind of the same thing as Izza. He just has a much better ult and a much better base kit than Izza. No CC immunity, but it's whatever. Osiris, I think Osiris is fine. He's a good character. You get out to a lead. You don't really build him auto attack anymore. You build him just ability based, I think. His abilities do good damage, and then he's also just still pretty tanky, but nothing is insane. And he's still a really good landing phase god. Pele, I think Pele is better than she was last patch, but I don't think it's that great. Her damage is just really good. I think she almost has overkill damage right now, where you all in someone, you're kind of killing them nearly instantly, and then you have like 4 more ult autos to use or like a 1 to use. So I think I'd slap on a tank item somewhere in most builds with Pele because her damage is just so high. Persephone, fine. I don't think she gets much better or much worse after the last patch. She just kind of changes up. She has a lot more damage, which is also easier to kill, so meh. Poseidon. Actually, a really big buff to Poseidon. He can actually kill with a Kraken now. What? It almost felt at most points last patch that if you ever Kraken a frontliner, unless you were super far ahead, they were kind of tanking that damage, eating that damage, and then just going to jump away after the stun was done. Now, you can actually kill them very easily. You can force out relics. Yes, he's easy to kill, but he was still pretty easy to kill last patch. He just has that actual threat now. Raw, I'm going to say same as last patch. Easier to dive, but his ult damage is so insane now. It's crazy. I think Ryzen is insane. This character's damage is crazy good. Yes, he's a little bit easier to kill, but 1-1-2 combo is just a kill, which is insane. Rama is like what Oleron and Izza wish they were. Good clear, but he doesn't forfeit safety or like a weaker rest of his kit with it. The ultimate is kind of just like the cherry on top because it gives him that safety that the other two don't have. Ratatasker, solid. No issues with them. Raven, solid. No issues with them. Scylla. Scylla is very, very good again. She actually has threat and kill potential now. She was already so safe that it did not matter last patch. You also always have to be worried about blinking on her, and she hits a root 2 combo. You're wiped off the map. I think Scylla is very, very good. Serket, another character that I think got a uber buff from this patch. Circuit support, Circuit jungle, both very, very good. Assassin supports are pretty much back. I think Fenrir, Circuit, and Naja are all at least good. I do think Fenrir is the worst out of all three of them, but I think both Naja and Circuit are very good supports at the moment. And in jungle, I think they're both at least good. I think Circuit's better though. Set, I think this character sucks. I think this character is so bad. He was very good when you couldn't burst him, and he was still doing very good threatening damage to you. Now, you can easily burst him, and his damage still isn't good enough. So I think he's pretty bad. Shiva, surprisingly, the highest win rate in the game currently on this patch at almost 60%. It is 57 point something. It is crazy high. I do think that is just, he's a very easy to play character. He doesn't take a lot of thought behind him, and he has CC immunity. Is his ult so bad? Yes. Are his 1, 2, 3 good? Yes. I think he's solid, but I do think this is a massive buff for him, the 9.5 change. I bet you guys never would have seen Scotty in first pick. This god is so dumb. Her ultimate and dog proc item effects now. So you just drop ult on somebody late game and they're just dead. The dog also just chases down, does a lot of damage. She can actually one-shot. She is just as easy to kill as she was last patch, but she just does way, way, way more damage. Sobek I actually think got a lot worse. Being unkillable in laning phase with like his calling card. Now it's actually very easy to kill him, and it's still pretty hard to die to him, even if you're eating the pluck, unless you're just getting completely outcleared, which at that point, it doesn't really matter what the enemy's playing if you're getting outcleared so badly. I think Sobek is a bad character. Soul, solid. She is a little bit easier to kill, but her damage actually feels relevant again, so she's a good character, solid. Wukong, I think Wukong is worse than he was last patch. I think he's pretty niche. He's still pretty hard to kill. His damage is still good, but his damage last patch was still good, and he was nearly impossible to kill. So I think he feels worse. Surtur, I'll say solid. I'm unsure about Surtur. His laning phase is still super lame. One of my least favorite changes since like Circuit support gut is Surtur getting stacks of his one just by walking at the enemy and just beating on them instead of having to think about how you want to play the laning phase. With Surtur, you just auto down the enemy if they're close enough. If not, you just auto down the wave. It used to be, do I want to try to get stacks, or do I want to push the wave, or do I want to trade poke? It's so dumb now. Susano is a great first pick. Tons of damage, tons of safety. No negatives to him. Sylvanas, actually he's pretty good. A pull means a kill now, instead of a pull means half health or third health of someone. You can actually look for a pull full combo and kill them, and his laning phase is actually super important because of the protections you're getting. Yeah, I'm a Sylvanas fiend. And Terra, if Ares, I'm gonna put Ares also in the top tier because I do think he's very, very good. If Ares wasn't as good as he was, I think Terra would be by far and away the best support. I still think she is very, very good, but just because this matchup is bad for her and then Ares is just so good on top of it, I have to give the nod to Ares. Terra's just so good at every point in the game. She does a ton of damage. She's very hard to kill at most points. If you pick the 1 or 2 cripple gods in the game, she can have a hard time. If you avoid that, she is uber broken. Thanatos, I think he's very good. Very, very good. Don't really think I have to explain that one. Morrigan, I think she's fine. Thor, I think he's good. A lot of people, I think, are complaining about Thor right now, but I don't think Thor's even like a top 7 assassin. He's good. Most assassins are good at this point. Thoth, I think Thoth feels worse now because his damage feels just about the same. Maybe it's a little bit better, but he just feels a lot easier to kill. It doesn't feel like if you brutalize him or if you all in him, he just dashes away and then just kind of one-shots you. It feels like you kind of one-shot him first, which is always good. I'll put him in niche. Tiamat, I think Tiamat is worse off because she relied on her tankiness. She doesn't have that same value, but her damage does go up. But I think that is worse for her. Tsukuyomi, I think, is very good right now. Tyr, I think, is solid. I think he's just fine. I think Ullr is an absolutely lame character right now. I'm a hater. Vamana is fine. I think Vulcan is fine. X-Ball is a bad character, but I don't think he's like this bad. I'm going to put him in niche because maybe having the ult be like... His ult used to be so OP because you could end fights in those 3 seconds. I think you can still do that, but you're reliant on your team. He's not hard to dive. His laning phase isn't great. I will say it is a positive that his bad laning phase, bad clearing, I should say, doesn't matter as much anymore because he can fight now. So I'll put him in niche. Xing Chen, solid. I don't think he got hurt or helped too much. His damage is a lot scarier now, but it feels like you can actually kill him. Yamoja, still a fine character in the right hands. a bad character in the wrong hands, so I'll put her in niche. Ymir, I think Ymir's a fine character. He is easy to kill, but one wall could just end a game. So I'll put him in solid. I think Yu Wong is very good right now. His damage is insane. His safety is insane. At laning phase, he's very good because of his passive. I'm a fan of Wong right now. And then also ending with Zeus and Zhong. I think these are both first picked characters. A ton of damage. Zeus can literally one-shot now. He still gets one-shot, but his damage is just so much more insane. It's like 2 lightning bolts on you and you're dead. And then Zhong feels still pretty hard to kill, but he just actually one-shots you earlier than he did before. So I think they're both very good. But here it is, the tier list for the 9.5 revert 11.6 patch. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything that I really missed on in your guys' opinion? Let me know if you guys liked the video. If you guys did like the video, so I know you guys did like it. If you guys have any ideas for videos you want me to do on this 9.5 revert, let me know. For now, I'm just kind of going to do what I think just kind of comes to mind. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys again next time. Peace.